Hello, everybody. So you asked for a small lecture on IntelliJ shortcuts, right? So I'm gonna deliver this in this video. What I will try to do is to just write some nonsense code, but so that I can show some IntelliJ features, okay? So you don't mind so much about the code itself. So I'm gonna create a class, and I pressed Command N. So I'm using a Mac, so I have the Command button. Probably in your Windows or Linux version, you just have to replace Command by a Control, okay? So Command N, class, let me call it test1. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, first cool shortcut that I can show you. It's very common that we write those main methods, right, to start running our program. And the signature is usually very boring, public static void main, blah, blah, blah. In IntelliJ, you can simply do PSVN, basically the initials of all the words that you use, public static void main, and then enter, and then it just types the main for you. So I tend to use this one a lot. Also, because when you're doing this type of programs, you also write a lot on the screen. So you have to write a lot of system out printlns. There's a shortcut for this as well. So if you type s out, enter, it creates the command for you. So we can just do hello. Okay, so we can run the program, and one way to run is to click here, right? So click run, it runs. But you can also, of course, do this via shortcuts. Let me just wait, so it runs, great. Let me just change this a bit, and I'm gonna run it again. And as you could see, the shortcut is, this is a bit complicated, so you have to check how to do this in your own Windows or Mac or Linux. But for me, this is basically the control, so Mac has also a control, Shift R. So if I do this combination, it will compile and it will run. And this Command Shift R also works in test code, okay? So if you have a test code there, let's see, for example, this one. If I press the same shortcut, so Command Shift R, it also runs the tests. Yeah. Note that because my editor thingy is here, so in the entire class, it executed all the tests. But if you go to one specific method and then you do the same, yeah, of course, this is a bad example. There's just one test method. Let me see another one. Yeah, this one, for example. So if I go to one method and I run, it's going to run just that method, yeah? Again, if I go outside, so in the scope of the entire class, then it's going to run them all, okay? Then another shortcut that I like very much, which is, so usually when you're declaring stuff, you have to do something like this, right? So list of strings, lists, new, array lists, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. One thing that I tend to do is to first write the right part of the expression and let IntelliJ to continue with the rest. So for example, I could easily do new array lists, right? It's gonna ask for the type. So let's keep it this way. And then I'm gonna do .var. Okay. So .var will then write the left part for me. And then I can just say lists. I will probably change this to string, for example. Yeah, and this compiles. I could have also said that it's just list that I want to use. So it's more up to you. So the tricky thing is to always write the right part first. So write it .var, enter, and it creates for you. Yeah. And then I also jumped to the previous one, right? So let me change the name. So this one is SumSet. And I also want to go back to the hash set part. So I can do Shift Tab. So Shift Tab goes to the previous part of the expression I'm writing. And then I can do changes here. So for example, I could just do set. When I'm happy, I just do enter. And of course, IntelliJ now goes to the next thing that I should do, which is the SumSet. I did it already. Enter again. Everything works. Yeah, great. I just deleted an entire line, right? How did I do it? So I pressed Command Delete. So if I do Command Delete, it deletes an entire row for me. And that's a shortcut that I use a lot, Command Delete. And then of course, Command Z puts it back. Another shortcut that I use a lot is to help me in writing loops. So let's suppose I want to do a for each in this list. I would have to write something like this, right? But I'm going to use the shortcut, which is lists dot, and then I'm going to type a for. And then you see that there are many options, right? And that's the beauty of it. So I'm going to choose the first one. Let's see what happens. Great, so it wrote for us a for each loop. Enter, then I'm inside of the body of the method, of the for. I can do s out again, right? S out, enter, list, and it prints the element for me. Yeah, let me run. It's going to be an empty list, so it's not going to print anything. Let's do something better. Let's put my name in here. Let's put my brother's name in here, and then I can run. Great, it works. Yeah. So something that I also noticed is I usually tend to rename my variables a lot, because the more you learn about the problem, the better you can name things, right? And then you can rename a variable. And the beauty of using the automated renaming is that you don't have to change it every place, right? So if I were to do this manually, I would have to change here and here. Wow, that's just too boring. I can ask IntelliJ to do this for me. And everything you need to know about refactoring is in this menu, right? So basically everything that it's important. And I'm going to use the rename now, right? And for me, it's a Shift F6. So that's what I'm going to do. I go to the variable I want to rename. I do Shift F6. And then I can rename it, name. And then note that IntelliJ renames everywhere. So again, Shift F6, and then I can just rename, and then you can see IntelliJ fixing it in all the places. Yeah. Talking about refactoring, another refactoring that I do a lot is to extract methods. So I have this very long method and I want to extract part of it to another method. So let's suppose I don't like this to be here. I want to move these 3 lines somewhere else. What we're going to do is to use the extract method refactoring that IntelliJ has. Oops. So it's Command Alt M in my keyboard, and then it opens this pop-up and it asks me what's the name of this method, and I'm going to put print all the names. Note that IntelliJ is very smart, so it knows that if I'm going to move this, only those 3 lines to a different method, this method has to receive the list of strings as a parameter. And IntelliJ already knows this, and it puts this automatically for me. And I can even define the name of the variable. So I want it to be called list of names. So then I can see the signature. Note that IntelliJ also knows that because this main method is a static method, for everything to keep working, the new method also has to be static. And then voila, okay, and then it does the refactoring. Another great trick that I use when it comes to extract methods, again, because I do this a lot. So let's suppose I see this and I want to move this to another method. And in this case, I know that I'm going to create a list, but this list has to come back from this new function so that I can use it here. So IntelliJ is pretty smart. So if I select these 3 lines and then Command Alt M, again, it's going to open the pop-up of extract method to me. I'm going to give the name get all the names. And see that the method returns list of strings already. So it's pretty smart. And that's why I love this refactoring functionality, okay? Because it really knows how to do things for you. Let's run to see if everything works, and this is also something usually really good from those plugins. So IntelliJ refactors code in always a way that it still compiles. So it's quite safe to use these things. Great. So everything works. So I showed you some refactorings already. I showed you how to create static void main methods, system out printlns, the for loops. Oh yeah, we are here in the for loops, right? So there are other types of fors that you can play with. So if you do a for I, right, it tells you what's going to happen, right? It shows the type of for it's going to do. It writes for you the counted for. And then it's your problem to then do get I, for example. Yeah, then we can use the dot var again to get the name. South, we print the name, and that's awesome, right? So dot var, dot for, and of course, just the last one, if you're using if you like to use strings and for each and etc., so you can do for each, and then it puts the for each for you, but this one is not so fun, right? You can do something like this. Yeah, so the for loop is there, and that's something that I use a lot. Then, yeah, what else? What I also use a lot is the functionality that writes code for me. So let me create a class. So command N again, class, let me call it user. So I'm creating a user class. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna define some attributes. So a user has a name, a user has an email, maybe a user has an age, a user has a boolean that says if the person is a student or not. Great. Then what we can do is generate code, right? And there's this generate function here that is amazing. So how did I do it? Command N. Yeah, so command N opens this generate function, and then the first thing I'm going to do is to create a constructor, because I want to have a constructor that receives all the parameters. So in here I can select which parameters I want. So I want all of them, or maybe I just want 2 of them. I want all of them. Enter, and it generates for you the constructor. That's awesome, right? I can also generate getters. So Control N again, getters or setters, whatever you want. So I'm going to generate getters for this. How many getters do I want? I also want for all the 4 fields. So great, I have it here. Something that is also very common to use in Java is to generate a toString. So let's generate a toString, and I can say, well, the toString, I just want name and email. So it writes for me the toString. Another common method in Java is the equals and hashcode. So I can also generate it. Again, command N, equals and hashcode. It's going to ask me a few questions on how I want to do this, which format I want to follow. You can just read the instructions later, but basically you do next, 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 right? You maybe select which fields will never be null so that IntelliJ has more information, and voila, it generates the equals implementation for me. So this is usually why I said today that I don't write getters and setters myself, right? I just let IntelliJ to do this for me. Then what else do I do? So let's suppose I have another class. Let me call it super service or whatever. And then I'm writing a constructor here. Super service. Oops. It imported the class that I didn't want. Super service, and let's suppose this receives a user as an attribute, and then I do like this, right? So I write the constructor, I put the parameters I want to receive in the constructor, and then, but I want to put this user as a field, right? So I can do in my Mac Alt-Enter. I just select create field. It asks me the name of the field, enter, and then it creates the field for me. Yeah. You can also do this in a method. So let's suppose you're in a method, and then at some point you realize you need another user here. Let's do the other way around. So new user like this. Now it needs a name, it needs a surname. What else does it need? That's a good shortcut as well. So if I do Command P, it shows me the list of parameters of the method I'm calling. So I'm gonna put some age here. Am I a student? Yes, I'm always a student. And then I can put this into a var, right? And then I will do .var. But let's suppose I want to do this as a field. So I can type .field. It's going to ask the name of the field. So let's put other user or something like that. Enter. And then that's it. So this other user is now declared as a field for you. Okay. What other shortcuts do I use? Yeah, there's a good one. Let me go back to this, for example. So let's suppose I have lots of code here, and then I'm gonna put my program to pause for a second. So thread.sleep, and I'm gonna say to my program to pause for 5 seconds, so 5,000 milliseconds. And you see that Java complains, right? Because this sleep throws an exception, so they have to put this into a try catch. And one way to do this would be, let's suppose I want to put the entire block in the try catch. I would have to do try, enter, catch, exception, blah, 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 right? That takes too much. So what we can do is to use the surround with function. So I basically select the piece of code I want to put inside of a block, and I do Command T. Oops. Nope. Yeah, Command Alt T. So surround with, and then I can choose what I want to surround this code block. And so I'm here. What I usually do is I type try, so that it goes to me, it filters for me, and then I can choose, let's suppose I want to do try catch finally. And voila, I just choose it, and IntelliJ writes the code for me. Then, yeah, another shortcut that I use a lot. So let's suppose I want to go to the super service class and it's closed. So I would have to go here and click twice and open it. The magical shortcut that I use is a double shift. So I press shift twice. It opens this, and in here I can type the name of the class that I want. So super service. Enter, and it finds it. And something very smart about this double shift is that you can look for only initials. So for example, see that I have the Roman numeral test class, and I'm going to find it by typing RNT. So you see that RNT, like the initials of the class. So it filters it really quickly, and then I can just open the class. Yeah, so this is something I do a lot. Double shift, and then I type the initials of my class, min, max, test. It finds things. Yeah. Another one that I like, so you see lots of useless imports. So if I go there and I do in my computer Alt-Enter, there's this optimize imports option that cleans the imports for me. This is one way to do this. Another way is to configure this in your project. So if you do, I do Command comma, which is basically the preferences menu. So IntelliJ preferences. If you search for auto import, yeah, here, you can say, well, add unambiguous imports on the fly. So when you're typing an import, it's going to write the import for you automatically, but you can also optimize imports on the fly. But this is a per project configuration, right? Then you can do, and that means that let's suppose, let's use some class here. Let me think, hash set. I'm using it. It's imported here now because I'm using it, and IntelliJ imported automatically. If I delete it and I save it, you see it disappeared because IntelliJ cleaned that automatically for me. Let me look at my keyboard and see what other shortcuts I use. I use double shift to search for a class, and this double shift is really nice because you can basically search for anything. So I said surround with, so if I don't remember the shortcuts by hand, by heart, I just double shift and I search for the shortcut. So this double shift is like this magical thing that you can ask about anything in IntelliJ. But you can also do Command O, and then you can search for a class, Roman numeral test. So that's a functionality specifically to look for classes, right? What else do I use often? Let me try things. No. Yeah, well, Command W to close something, right? Then Command O to open something again. Yeah, I think that's about it. So that those are the main shortcuts that I use the entire time, but there are many others, right? And then probably you're going to find your favorite shortcuts or the things that you use the most. So my suggestion is explore the menus and see the type of repeated stuff you do all the time. And then those are, this is just an opportunity for you to learn the shortcuts. So IntelliJ has shortcuts for basically everything. And of course, if you're not an IntelliJ fan, you use Eclipse or some other IDE. I'm pretty sure all IDEs, they also support all types of shortcuts, and all you have to do is to just learn about them. Yeah, that's it. So if you have any other shortcuts that I didn't cover here, just let me know, okay? Bye.